They called him the Fool, the man who talked to trees, listened to ants, and wandered the forest alone. But when the entire village began to die of drought, he became the only person who knew how to save them. Follow me into this adventurous journey, but before that, hit the subscribe button now. Long ago, in the village of Umuese, nestled between the great forest and the winding river, there lived a young man named Okoro. From the day he could walk, the villagers called him the Fool. While other children learned to farm, Okoro lay in the grass, watching ants build their kingdoms. While other boys practiced hunting, he sat by the river talking to frogs. When he became a man, nothing changed. The other men went to market, but Okoro wandered the forest, listening to bird songs and studying the patterns of leaves. That boy's head is filled with palm wine. The women would say, shaking their heads as they pounded yam. "He will die hungry," the men declared. "A man who does not work does not eat." Even his own mother wept. "Okoro, my son, why can't you be like other men? Find a wife, plant crops, build a compound, stop this foolishness." But Okoro would only smile a simple smile and say, "Mama, I am learning." "Learning what?" she would cry. "How to speak to lizards." The village children threw stones at him. The elders used him as an example of what happens when a child refuses wisdom. Young men courted girls by saying, "At least I'm not like Okoro the Fool." Years passed this way. Then came the great drought. It started slowly, a week without rain, then 2, then a month. The river that had never failed began to shrink. The crops withered in the fields. The yam barns grew empty. Children cried from hunger, and the old ones began to die. The chief, Igwe called an urgent meeting under the great Iroko tree. "Our people are suffering," the chief said, his voice grave. "The wise men of Umueze must find a solution. We need water, or our village will perish." The head farmer stood first. "Great Igwe, I have farmed these lands for 40 years. I say we must sacrifice 3 goats to the river god. He is angry with us." The chief nodded. "Let it be done." They sacrificed the goats, but no rain came. The river continued to shrink. The chief Dibia, the village healer, stood next. "The ancestors are displeased. We must offer palm wine and kola nut at every shrine in the village." They made the offerings. Still no rain. The river became a stream. The great hunter, Okonkwo, proposed leading men into the deep forest to find a hidden spring. They searched for 5 days. They found nothing. The traders suggested buying water from neighboring villages, but those villages were suffering too. The drought had spread across the entire land. Days turned to weeks. The stream became a trickle. Desperation settled over Umueze like a heavy fog. At the next meeting, as the wise men argued in circles, a small voice spoke up. "Let's Okoro try." Everyone turned. It was Adaiz, a child of 7 years, who had spoken. The crowd erupted in laughter. "The fool," the head farmer roared. "That boy who talks to trees? He doesn't even know how to plant yam." Another elder shouted, "He has no wisdom." They all agreed. But Chief Igwe Nwokedi, watching his people die of thirst, raised his hand for silence. He had ruled Umueze for 30 years, and he knew that sometimes wisdom came from unexpected places. "Let the boy speak," the chief commanded. The crowd parted, and Okoro walked forward. He was thin from eating little. His clothes were patched and worn, but his eyes were clear and bright. "Great Igwe," Okoro said, bowing low, "I can find water." The villagers erupted again. but the chief silenced them. "How?" Igwe Nwokedi asked. "I know a place in the forest," Okoro said simply. "Follow me." The elders protested loudly. "This is madness. We waste time following a fool while our children die." But something in Okoro's quiet certainty made the chief decide. "We have tried everything else. We will try this too." And so, the entire village followed Okoro into the great forest. He led them past the familiar paths where hunters tracked game. He led them beyond the clearings where women gathered firewood. He took them deeper into the forest than most villagers had ever gone, to a place where the trees grew so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground. Finally, in a small clearing surrounded by ancient trees, Okoro stopped. "Here," he said, pointing to a spot that looked no different from anywhere else. "Dig here." The head farmer examined the ground and laughed bitterly. "There is no water here, fool. The earth is as dry as bone. We have wasted our time." "Please," Okoro said quietly, "dig deep, 6 feet or more." The chief looked at Okoro's calm face, then at his desperate people. "Dig," he commanded. Grumbling, the young men began to dig. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. The earth was dry and hard. "You see," the elders said, "the fool has led us on a useless journey." "Keep digging," Okoro said. 4 feet, 5 feet. The men were exhausted, angry, ready to stop. At 6 feet, a digger's hoe struck something different. The earth was suddenly cool, damp. "Wait!" the digger shouted. They dug faster now. 6.5 feet. The dampness increased. At 7 feet, water began to seep into the hole. At 8 feet, it burst forth like a fountain. Cold, clean, endless water, bubbling up from a deep underground stream. The villagers stared in shock. Then they erupted in joy, crying, laughing, dancing. Children splashed in the water. Women filled their pots. Men wept with relief. Chief Igwe Nwokedi turned to Okoro, who stood quietly at the edge of the clearing, watching with his simple smile. "How did you know?" the chief asked, wonder in his voice. Okoro walked to one of the ancient trees and placed his hand on its trunk. "Do you see these trees, great Igwe? They are the oldest in the forest. Their leaves are green, even in drought. Their roots must drink from something." He pointed to a cluster of birds' nests in the branches. These birds never left during the drought. Birds need water every day. They knew something we didn't. He knelt and touched the moss growing at the tree's base. This moss grows only where there is moisture. And if you listen, really listen, you can hear the water flowing beneath the earth. The chief listened, and in the deep silence of the forest, he heard it, the faint whisper of moving water underground. "But how did you learn all this?" an elder asked, his voice no longer mocking. Okoro stood, brushing dirt from his hands. "While you were all busy being wise, I was busy learning. You saw a fool talking to trees. I was studying how they survive. You saw a fool watching ants. I was learning how they find water in dry seasons. You saw a fool listening to birds. I was understanding their patterns." He looked at the gathered villagers with gentle eyes. "You called me foolish because I didn't do what everyone else did. But while you were all walking the same path, I was exploring new ones. While you were all thinking the same thoughts, I was asking different questions." The head farmer, humbled, bowed his head. "Forgive us, Okoro. We were wrong." Chief Igwe Nwokedi stepped forward and placed his hand on Okoro's shoulder. "From this day forward, you will be my chief advisor. You will sit at my right hand in all council meetings." The village of Umueze will learn from your wisdom. And so it was. Okoro, once called the Fool, became the most respected man in Umueze. He taught the villagers to read the signs of nature, to listen to the wisdom of the forest, to see beyond the obvious. Under his guidance, Umueze never suffered drought again. They learned where to dig wells, when to plant crops, how to live in harmony with the land. The children, who once threw stones at him, now sat at his feet, eager to learn. The elders who mocked him now sought his counsel. And Okoro, in his gentle way, taught them all the same lesson. True wisdom is not about knowing what everyone else knows. It is about having the courage to learn what others ignore. The fool is often the one who dares to see the world differently. Years later, when Okoro was an old man, a young boy asked him, "Grandfather Okoro, were you ever angry at the villagers for calling you a fool?" Okoro smiled, the same simple smile he'd always worn. "No, my child. They called me a fool because they measured wisdom by their own standards. But the forest doesn't care about standards. The birds don't care about tradition. Nature has its own wisdom, and I chose to learn from it instead of from men." "But weren't you lonely?" the boy asked. "Sometimes," Okoro admitted. "But I was never alone. I had the trees, the birds, the rivers, and the wind. They were better teachers than any elder in Umueze." And the boy, looking up at the wise old man, who had once been called the village fool, understood. The proverb says, "The butterfly that flies among thorns will tear its wings. But the one that learns to fly above them will see farther than all others." And so the story is told, from grandmother to grandchild, in villages across the land, that wisdom wears many faces, and the greatest fools are often those who think they already know everything.